All right, so here we are at Dakshineshwar, and we are in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, page 516. And what day are we on? We are, Sunday, September 7th, 1884. So we've obviously just finished a kirtan because the Gospel says, after the kirtan, Sri Ramakrishna resumed his seat. With great feeling, he began to sing the Divine Mother, his eyes turned upward. O Mother, ever blissful as thou art, do not deprive thy worthless child of bliss. My mind knows nothing but thy lotus feet. The king of death scowls at me terribly. Tell me, Mother, what shall I say to him? He sang again, as is a man's meditation, so is his feeling of love. As is his feelings of love, so is a gain. And faith is the root of all. He continued, This world, O Mother, is thy madhouse. What can I say of thy virtues? Setting aside thine elephant, thou roamest about on foot, putting off thy gems and pearls, O self-willed mother, thou dost adorn thy comely neck with a garland of human heads. Now thou must rescue Ram Prasad out of the forest of this world. Again he said, saying, why should I go to Ganga or Gaya, to Kashi, Kanchi, or Prabhas, as long as I breathe my last with Kali's name upon my lips? And again, dwell, O mind, within yourself. Enter no one's home. If you but seek there, you will find all that you're searching for. And then the black bee of my mind is drawn in sheer delight to the blue lotus flower of Mother Shama's feet. And then, cherish my precious Mother Shama tenderly within, O mind. May you and I alone behold her, letting no one else intrude. As the master sang this last song, he stood up. He was almost intoxicated with divine love. Again and again, he said to the devotees, cherish my precious Mother Shama tenderly within. Then he danced and sang, is Kali, my mother, really black? The naked one of blackest hue lights the lotus of the heart. The master reeled as he sang. Niranjan came forward to hold him. Oh, we read this last time. Okay, you can all hear it again. The master said to him softly, don't touch me, you rascal. Seeing the master dance, the devotee stood up. He caught hold of M's hand and said, don't be foolish, dance. Sri Ramakrishna couldn't bear it if people felt too embarrassed to get up and sing and dance. Sri Ramakrishna resumed his seat, still charged with the divine ecstasy. Coming down a little to the normal state, he said, Om, 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 Om Kali. Then again he said, let me have a smoke. Many of his devotees stood around. Mahimacharan was fanning him. The master asked him to sit down and recite some verses from the scriptures. Mahimacharan recited from the Mahanirvana Tantra. Om, I bow to thee, the everlasting cause of the world. I bow to thee, pure consciousness, the soul that sustains the whole universe. I bow to thee, who art one without duality, who dost bestow liberation. I bow to thee, Brahman, the all-pervading attributeless reality. Thou art the refuge, the only object of adoration. Thou art the only cause of the universe, the soul of everything that is. Thou alone art the world's creator, thou its preserver, and thou its destroyer. Thou art the immutable supreme Lord, the absolute. Thou art unchanging consciousness, dread of the dreadful, terror of the terrible, refuge of all beings, purity of purifiers. Thou alone dost rule over those in high places, supreme over supreme, protector of the protectress. Almighty Lord, who art made manifest as the form of all, yet thou thyself, unmanifest and indestructible. Thou who art imperceptible to the senses, yet art the very truth, incomprehensible, imperishable, all-pervading, hidden, and without form. O Lord, light of the universe, protect us from harm. On that one alone we meditate. That one is the sole object of our worship. To that alone, the non-dual witness of the universe, we bow. In that one who alone exists, and who is alone as our sole eternal support, we seek refuge. the self-dependent Lord, the vessel of safety in the ocean of existence. Ramakrishna listened to this hymn with folded hands. After it was sung, he saluted Brahman. The devotees did likewise. Adhar arrived from Calcutta and bowed down before the master. Master to M, we have had such joy today. How much joy Hari's name creates. Isn't it so? M, yes, sir. Mahimacharan was a student of philosophy. That day, too, he had chanted, too many pages. He had chanted, the name of Hari and danced during the kirtan. This made the master very happy. It was about dusk. Many of the devotees took their leave. A lamp was lighted in Sri Ramakrishna's room and incense was burnt. After some time, the moon came out, flooding the sky with its light. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the couch. He was in a spiritual mood, absorbed in the contemplation of the Divine Mother. Now and then he chanted her hallowed name. Adhar was sitting on the floor. M and Niranjan, too, were there. Sri Ramakrishna began to talk to Adhar. Master, what? You've come just now. We've had so much kirtan and dancing. Shamdas began the kirtan. He is Ram's music teacher, but I didn't enjoy his singing very much. I didn't feel like dancing. Later, I heard about his character, and I was told that he has as many mistresses as there are hairs on a man's head. Didn't you get the job? Adhar held the post of deputy magistrate, a government post that carried with it great prestige. He earned 300 rupees a month. He had applied for the office of vice chairman of the Calcutta municipality. The salary attached to this office was 1,000 rupees. In order to secure it, Adhar had interviewed many influential people in Calcutta. Master, to M and Niranjan, Husra said to me, please pray to the Divine Mother for Adhar that he may secure the job. Adhar made the same request to me. I said to the mother, oh, mother, Adhar has been visiting you. May he get the job if it pleases you. But at the same time, I said to her, how small-minded he is. He's praying to you for things like that and not for knowledge and devotion. To Adhar, why do you dance attendance on all those small-minded people? You have seen so much, you have heard so much. Quote, after reading the entire Ramayana to ask whose wife Sita is. Adhar, you cannot but do these things if he wants to Adhar, a man cannot but do these things if he wants to lead a householder's life. You haven't forbidden us to, have you? Master, nivriti alone is good and not pravriti. Okay, the footnote here says, nivriti and pravriti mean respectively, inwardness of mind and the inclination for outer enjoyment. Once when I was in a God-intoxicated state, I was asked to go to the manager of the Kali temple to sign a receipt for my salary. They all do it there. But I said to the manager, I cannot do that. I'm not asking for that salary. You may give it to someone else if you want. I am the servant of God alone. Who else shall I serve? Malik noticed at the late hours of my meals and arranged for a cook. He gave me 1 rupee for a month's expense. That embarrassed me. I had to run to him whenever he sent for me. It would have been quite different thing if I had gone to him of my own accord. In leading a worldly life, one has to humor mean-minded people and do so many things. After the attainment of my exalted state, I noticed how things were around me, and I said to the Divine Mother, oh, Mother, please change the direction of my mind right now so that I may not have to flatter rich people. To Adhar, be satisfied with the job you have. People hanker after a post paying 50 or 100 rupees, and you are now earning 300 rupees. You are a deputy magistrate. I saw a deputy magistrate at Kamarpukur. His name was Ishwar Ghoshal. He had a turban on his head. Men's very bones trembled before him. I remember seeing him during my boyhood. Is a deputy magistrate a person to be traveled with? Serve him whom you are already serving. The mind becomes soiled by serving but one master. And to serve 5 masters? Once a woman became attached to a Mussulman and invited him to her room. But he was a righteous person, so he said to her that he wanted to use the toilet and must go home to use his water jar for water. The woman offered him her own, but he said, "No, that will not do. I shall use the jar to which I've already exposed myself. I cannot expose myself before a new one." With these words, he went away. That brought the woman to her senses. She understood that a new water jar, in her case, signified a paramour. Narendra was in straitened circumstances on account of his father's unexpected death. He had been seeking a job to maintain his mother, brothers, and sisters. He had served a few days as the headmaster of Vidyasagar school at Bao Bazar. Adhar: "May I ask if Narendra would accept a job?" Master: "Yes, he would. He has his mother, brothers, and sisters to support." Adhar: "Well, Narendra can support his family with 50 or 100 rupees. Will he try for 100? Master: "Worldly people think highly of their wealth. They feel that there is nothing like it. Shambhu said, 'It is my desire to leave all my property to the lotus feet of God.' But does God care for money? He wants from his devotees knowledge, devotion, discrimination, and renunciation. After the theft of jewelry from the temple of Radhakanta, Mathur Babu said, 'Oh God, you could not protect your own jewelry.' What a shame. Once he wanted to give me an estate and consulted Hridoy about it. I overheard the whole thing from the Kali temple and said to him, 'Please don't harbor any such thought. It will injure me greatly.'" Adhar: "I can tell you truthfully, sir, that not more than 6 or 7 persons like you have been born since the creation of the world." Master: "How so?" There certainly are people who have given up everything for God. As soon as a man gives up his wealth, people come to know about him. But it is also true that there are others unknown to people. Are there not such holy men in Upper India? Adhar: "I know of at least one such person in Calcutta. He is Devendranath Tagore." Master: "What did you say?" "Who has enjoyed the world as much as he? Once I visited him at his house with Mathur Babu. I saw that he had many young children. The family physician was there writing out prescriptions. If after having 8 children, a man doesn't think of God, then who will? After enjoying so much wealth, if Devendra hadn't thought of God, then people would have cried shame upon him." Niranjan: "But he paid off all of his father's debts." Master: "Keep quiet. Don't torment me anymore. Do you call anyone a man who doesn't pay off his father's debts if he's able to? But I admit that Devendranath is infinitely greater than worldly men who are sunk in worldliness. They can learn much from him. There is an ocean of difference between a real all-renouncing devotee of God and a householder devotee. A real sannyasi, a real devotee who has renounced the world, is like a bee. The bee will not light on anything but a flower. It will not drink anything but honey. But a devotee leading a worldly life is like a fly. A fly sits on a festering sore as well as on a sweetmeat. One moment he enjoys a spiritual mood, and the next moment he is beside himself with pleasure and lust and greed. A devotee who has really and truly renounced all for God is like the chatak bird. It will drink only the rainwater that falls when the star Svati is in the ascendant. It would rather die of thirst than touch any other water, though there may lie around it 7 oceans and rivers full to the brim with water. An all-renouncing devotee will not touch lust and greed. He will not keep lust and greed near him, lest he should feel attached to it. Adhar: "But Chaitanya too enjoyed the world." Master, amazed: "What? What did he enjoy in the world?" Adhar: "Scholarship, honor." Master: "It was an honor in the sight of others, but nothing to him. Whether you, a deputy magistrate, or this youngster Niranjan honors me, it's all the same to me. I tell you this truthfully. The idea of controlling a wealthy man never enters my mind." Surendra once said, rather condescendingly, that Rakhal's father could sue me for letting Rakhal stay with me. When I heard this from Manmohan, I said, "Who is this Surendra? How dare he make a remark like that? He keeps a carpet and a pillow here and gives me some money. Is that his excuse for daring to make such an impudent remark?" Adhar: "I understand that he gives 10 rupees a month. Isn't that so?" Master: "That covers 2 months' expenses. The devotees stay here and he gives them money for their service. It is he who earns the merit. What is that to me? Is it for my personal gain that I love Narendra, Rakal, and the others? M. Your love for them is like a mother's love for her children. Master. But even behind the mother's love lies her hope that the children will support her later on. But I love these youngsters because I see in them Narayana himself. These are not mere words. Tadar, listen. There is no scarcity of moths when the lamp is lighted. When God is realized, he himself provides everything for his devotees. He sees that they do not lack anything. When God is enshrined in the heart, people come forward to offer their services. Once a young sannyasi went to a householder to beg his food. He had lived as a monk from his very birth. He knew nothing of worldly matters. A young daughter of the householder came out to give him alms. He turned to her mother and said, "Mother, has this girl abscesses on her chest?" The mother said, "No, my child. God has given her breast to nurse her child when she becomes a mother." Thereupon the sannyasi said, "Then why should I worry about myself? Why should I beg my food? He who has created me will certainly feed me." Listen, if a woman renounces everything for her paramour, she can say to him, if need be, "You wretch, I shall sit on your chest and devour you." Nangta, that's his non-dualistic teacher, Totapuri. Nangta told me of a certain king who gave a feast to the sadhus using plates and tumblers of gold. I noticed in the monasteries at Benares with what great respect the abbots were treated. Many wealthy up-country people stood before them with folded hands, ready to obey their commands. But a true sadhu, a person who's really renounced everything, seeks neither a gold plate nor honor. God sees that they lack nothing. God gives the devotee everything that is needed for realizing him. Ta'adar, you are an executive officer. What shall I say to you? Do whatever you think best. I'm an illiterate person. Adhar, smiling to the devotees, now he's examining me. Master, smiling, dispassion alone is good. Don't you see, I didn't sign that receipt for my salary. God alone is real and all else is illusory. Hazra entered the room and sat with the devotees on the floor. Hazra repeated now and then, Soham, Soham, I am he, I am he. The Latu and the other devotees, he often said, what does one gain by worshiping God with offerings? That is merely giving him things that are his already. He has said this once to Narendra. The master spoke to him. The master, I explained to Latu who the object of a devotee's worship is. Hazra, the devotee really prays to his own self. Master, what you see is a very lofty thought. The aim of spiritual discipline, of chanting God's name in glories, is to realize just that. A man attains everything when he discovers his true self in himself. The object of sadhana is to realize that. That also is the purpose of assuming a human body. One needs the clay mold as long as the gold image has not been cast, but when the image is made, the mold is thrown away. The body may be given up after the realization of God. God is not only inside us, he's both inside and outside. The Divine Mother showed me in the Kali temple that everything is Chinmaya, the embodiment of spirit, and it is she who has become all this. The image, myself, the utensils of worship, the door sill, the marble floor, everything is indeed Chinmaya. The aim of prayer, of spiritual discipline, of chanting the name and glories of God, is to realize just that. For that alone, a devotee loves God. These youngsters, that's referring to Latu and the others, are on a lower level. They haven't reached a high spiritual state. They are following the path of bhakti. Please don't tell them such things as, I am he. Like a mother bird brooding over her chicks, Sri Ramakrishna was alert to protect his devotees. Adhar and Niranjan went out on the porch to take refreshments. Presently they returned to the room. Adhar smiling, we talked about so many things, pointing to M, but he didn't utter a word. Master, in Keshav's organization, there was a young man with 4 university degrees. He laughed when he saw people arguing with me. He said to argue with him? How silly. I saw him again later on at one of Keshav's meetings. But then he did not have the same bright complexion. Ramakrishna sat on the floor for his supper. It was a light meal of a little farina pudding and 1 or 2 luchis that had been offered in the Kali temple. Am and Latu were in the room. The devotees had brought various sweets for the master. He touched a sandesh and asked Latu, "Who was the rascal that brought this?" He took it out of the cup and left it on the ground. He said to Latu and M, "I know all about him. He is immoral." Latu, "What shall I do with this sweet?" Master, "Kishori brought it." Latu, "Will it suit you?" Master, "Yes." M had received an English education. Ramakrishna said to him, "It is not possible for me to eat things offered by anyone and everyone. Do you believe this?" M, "Gradually I shall have to believe all these things." Master, "Yes, that is so." After finishing the meal, Ramakrishna washed his mouth. He said to M, "Then will you give the rupee to Naran?" "Yes," said M, "certainly I will." The moon rose up in the clear autumn sky and was reflected in the river. It was ebb tide in the Ganges, and the river flowed south toward the sea. That is the end of that day. Are there any questions about anything that came up in this reading? Any comments? John?
Oh, okay, there. I'm sorry. I find small things, but something seems consistent in a lot of these stories. Ramakrishna is all for renunciation, getting rid of the world, but he smokes constantly. He's always asking for a smoke, and eventually that's what killed him.
That is not what killed him.
What's the deal?
Well, he doesn't smoke constantly. I think I know this material pretty well. What killed him was, of course, he had one gets out of a body one way or the other. He was 50 years old, and for anyone in India, that's a long time at that time. Also, remember, he was speaking constantly. He had what they called minister's disease, minister's throat, from speaking all the time to the devotees.
Okay,
He actually smoked. Let me continue, John. He actually would ask for a sweet or a glass of water or for a smoke simply to bring his mind down, because his mind was always going up to the highest state of consciousness, and he had to actively find a way to bring his mind down. We have to find a way to keep our mind up. He had to actively work to keep his mind down.
Okay.
And yes, he did value renunciation, but he certainly didn't tell everybody to do it. He was, in fact, one of his closest devotees, who had just married, he said, "No, and have fun with your wife. Come on, don't be so serious." It really depended on the person he was talking to. For those who were qualified, which is very important, every person has what they're qualified to do and what they're not qualified to do, what their abilities are. He definitely espoused that because he could see where they were going to go, and he could see what their roles were going to be in this world. Others, he said, no. People repeatedly ask him, "Do I have to renounce the world to give up?" "No, why should you renounce?" Again and again. I think you have a little bit of a fixation on it, John.
Well, I was just curious about certain things about him that seemed to make no sense. I mean, he didn't drink, evidently, but that would also...
And it's very against the Hindu tradition to drink. I mean, Girish drank, but I see Sunanda has her hand up.
Yeah, it was along the same line. I was surprised that he said he wanted to smoke, because I remember him saying he had heard people say, "Oh, Hubble Bubbles are so wonderful," and he wanted to try it to see what it was like. And so I was surprised to hear him say he wanted to smoke.
Yeah, because he said, he put it in his mouth. They said, "Oh, mind, this is what it is. This is what it is like to smoke a Hubble Bubble," and then he threw it away.
Right.
Well, part of what gives me the authority to question it is Holy Mother, because she seemed to think after he went, I remember one of the quotes, and correct me, I know you know this much better than I do, that he was, all of these avatars were overboard in some area, and he was overboard in renunciation.
She said his crest, not his overboard, never using that word, she said his crest jewel, his prime quality was renunciation. The ability to look at things square in the face and say, that is not lasting. That is not lasting. I will not put my mind there because it was not lasting. And when we put our mind and heart into things that don't last, we get frustrated, we get disappointed, and then we look for something else to make us happy. No, that was, if he said that if he had any personal attachment to it, he would simply drop it. But if he saw God within that person, within that being, absolutely, he would do anything for them. But you have to really see Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sardadev as complementary. They really worked they really worked together, and they had the same message, just presented in different ways. Sri Ramakrishna was deeply criticized by his Brahmo Samaj devotees for allowing people like Girish and his brother Atul to come there. He was deeply criticized, and the Brahmo Samaj people stopped coming. They shunned him because he actually went to the theater where bad people were. He didn't care. He blessed the actresses who were considered, immoral.
But on the contrary, he condemned the woman that Sarada Devi brought because of her immoral character. And of course, she denied. She said she didn't listen to it. She kept that person as a friend.
What Sri Ramakrishna couldn't bear was hypocrisy. He could tolerate anything if there was truthfulness and honesty and upfrontness. What he couldn't bear was a person being dishonest and not being upfront about it. If a person openly said this is that, he would do anything. A lot of his test to purity was simply truthfulness.
So that woman wasn't truthful. That was her problem.
Yeah, she wasn't upfront about who she was. Yeah. That would be my hazard, my guess, because he was so different with so many other people.
But then Holy Mother rejected that and kept her on as a friend.
As I say, Sri Ramakrishna said at the end of his life, you will have to do a lot more than I have. You will have many more people. You will have to do much work, much more work than I have done. His body was much more tender, and she was able to, as his disciple Swami Premananda said, she has the ability to swallow poison none of us could do. None of us could swallow that kind of poison that she has swallowed. All the direct disciples sent on their people to her because they knew that she could kind of digest what she was going to have to digest with them. They didn't have the strength or the power to do it. It's like, oh, okay, you're going to Mother. Laugh from Sunanda. Any other questions? Then I'm going to read a little bit from September 14th, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room with Narendra, Bhavanat, and the Mukherjee brothers and other devotees. Rakhal was staying with Balaram at Vrindavan and was laid up with an attack of fever. Narendra was preparing himself for his coming law examination. About 11 o'clock, Gyan Babu arrived. He was a government official and received 4 university degrees. Master, at the sight of Gyan Babu, well, the sudden awakening of knowledge. Gyan, smiling, you must admit, sir, that one sees the awakening of knowledge as a result of very good fortune. Master, smiling, you are Gyan. That means knowledge. You are Gyan. Then why should you have Agyan, ignorance? Oh, I understand. Where there is knowledge, there is also ignorance. The shades Vashishta was endowed with great knowledge, and still he wept at the death of his sons. Therefore I ask ye to go beyond both knowledge and ignorance. The thorn of ignorance has pierced the sole of a man's foot. He needs the thorn of knowledge to take it out. Afterwards he throws away both thorns. The Jnani says, this world is a framework of illusion. But he who is beyond both knowledge and ignorance describes it as a mansion of mirth. He sees that it is God himself who has become the universe and all living beings, and the 24 cosmic principles. A man can live in the world after attaining God. He can lead the life of detachment. In the country, I've seen the women of the carpenter families making flattened rice with a husking machine. With one hand, one of them turns the patty in the hole, and with the other, she holds a nursing child. At the same time, she's talking with the buyer. She says to him, "You owe me 2 annas. Pay it before you go." But 75% of the woman's mind is on her hand lest it should be crushed by the paddle of the husking machine. A man should do his worldly duties with only 25% of his mind, devoting the rest of it to God. Referring to Pandit Shashidhar, the master said to the devotees, "I found him monotonous, engaged in the dry discussion of philosophy. He alone who, after reaching the nitya, the absolute, can dwell in the lila, the relative, and again climb from the lila to the nitya, has ripe knowledge and devotion. Sages like Narada cherished love for God after attaining the knowledge of Brahman. This is called vijnana. Mere dry knowledge is like an ordinary rocket. It bursts into a few sparks and then it dies out. But the knowledge of sages like Narada and Shukadeva is like a good rocket. For a while it showers balls, different colors, and then it stops, then again throws out new balls, and again it stops, and thus it goes on. Those sages had prema, ecstatic love for God. Prema is the rope by which one can reach Satchidananda. The master finished his midday meal and rested a few minutes. Bhavanat, M., and the Mukherjee brothers, Hazra, and several other devotees sat down under the bakul tree and began to converse. The master stopped there a while on his way to the pine grove. Hazra to the younger Gopal, "Please prepare a smoke for him," meaning the master. Master smiling, "Why don't you admit that you want it?" All laugh. Mukherjee to Hazra, "You must have learnt much wisdom from him," meaning the master. Master O smiling, "Oh no, he has been wise like this from his boyhood." All laugh. Presently the master returned from the pine grove. The devotees noticed that he was in an ecstatic mood and reeling like a drunkard. After reaching his room, he regained the normal state. Many devotees gathered in the room. Among them was a newcomer, a sadhaka from Kanagar, who looked about 50 years of age and seemed to have great vanity of scholarship. Okay, and I think this is a good place to stop. And let me give some announcements here. Okay, tomorrow, Swami Sumanasananda will speak on Sri Ramakrishna, Many Eyes, Many Views. This coming Tuesday is Sri Ramakrishna's puja, which will start at approximately 11-ish. We will have followed by a home of fire at 12:45-ish, and then followed by prasad. So if you can get here, please do come. Otherwise, it will be available online. And next Saturday, Wednesday we'll have a reading from Swami Akhandananda, and next Saturday we'll have another reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Oh, well, when's Karma Yoga Day? 16th, okay, yes, and the 16th, oh my goodness, coming right up. Karma Yoga Day here, 9 a.m., if you come at 9:30, we'll still welcome you. Just come right down to the convent and join us because we would really love to have your presence for Karma Yoga Day. And I think that is it. Any other comments or questions? All right, then we'll conclude with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.